Welcome,
right.
everybody, to another episode of the Divine Farmer Health Podcast. My name is Jimmy Yen, aka the Acu Sensei, and I'm joined my partner, Chris McKee, nutritionist. And we have a topic, I would say, it's a pretty, popular topic and maybe misunderstood topic. And so, Chris, what are we talking about today?
Okay, we're talking about something called HIIT, high intensity interval training. And before I dive into this, I think I want to just kind of talk about what I experienced, and maybe you do this, Jimmy, with your clients. Is there's two reasons why most people say I can't eat right. I don't have time to exercise. What are the two reasons? Because they don't have time to make good food. Okay, so when I look at people's lifestyle, because when I do an intake, I'm looking at, obviously I'm taking in a lot of information. How do you sleep? What do you exercise? How much work? How much stress? All those different things. And it's true, people's lives are kind of crazy, but high intensity interval training, when I share with you some of the research on this, you're gonna find time to do this, because there's no way that you can't fit 20 minutes 2 times a week into your lifestyle. So what is high intensity interval training? Well, it would be like our ancient ancestors, right? They didn't go to the gym. They didn't get on a treadmill. They didn't go for a jog. When they exercised, it was in bursts. It was in short bursts. And so that is what this is. You warm up, you do a short burst, about 30 seconds of literally high intensity. So if you're on a treadmill, if you're on a stationary bike, if you're on a Stairmaster, Jimmy, you play tennis, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's brief moments, right, I'm sure, during the game where it is all out, running
Oh
back and
yeah.
forth.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wear my watch, my Apple Watch, and to track and to
Yeah.
see, which level that I hit. And so tennis definitely is hit training because
Yeah.
I can get up to my heartbeat will get up to 130 and 140 beats per minute. And I can actually and this is not even competing, this is just practice, just with some friends, and my heart rate stayed above 115 for a good 10-15 minutes, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, something like pickleball, even pickleball, which is really popular in my age group, right?
Yeah,
But it's kind of like tennis.
that's less
Well, maybe
if you
for
ask
somebody
tennis
my age.
yeah, if you ask tennis players, you tell them about pickleball, they're like,
No.
what, so you're holding a beer in one hand and then you're just standing there with another paddle. That's pickleball.
Okay. Well, some people are probably going to disagree on that one.
Yeah.
But you're putting it all, you're going all out for a short period of time. So so let's talk about, if you are gonna do this, if you're gonna try this, you don't need to go to the gym. Okay, you don't need to be on it. A lot of people have a treadmill at home or a stationary bike at home that's got clothes hanging on it, so you could take those clothes off of there. And try this. So you want to warm up for like a minute or two, right? Just get some brisk walking or brisk something to get your body warmed up, and then you just go like crazy for 30 seconds. Okay, just 30 seconds, that's all. And you're going to be without oxygen. That's the whole idea. You're going to be gasping for air. So don't freak out if you haven't been exercising, because you're going to be fine. You will get oxygen back. And then you want to slow down and get with oxygen for even a minute and a half. If it takes you that long to recover, if you're not in good shape and you haven't been exercising, it may take you a minute and a half to 2 minutes to recover. So just remember, your heart is a muscle, and it's no different than going to the gym and doing a bicep, curls and getting sore, right? Because you've torn down some of that muscle tissue. But what your body does is it rebuilds more muscle tissue. So the next time you do it, you can do a heavier weight, and your heart is the same way. So this high intensity, 30 seconds is really pushing your heart, and then you're giving your heart a chance to recover and get with oxygen. And then you do it again. And typically the amount of time is 20 minutes. So you're warming up, you do 20 minutes of this on and off, and then you cool down. Okay, that's some people do it longer, some people do 30 minutes. I like to do 5-minute warm up, 20-minute HIIT, 5-minute cool down. That feels really good to me. And I want to share my personal story with this because I was introduced to HIIT probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. It's been quite a while. And of course, I'm menopausal, right? I'm menopausal now. I was menopausal then. And, one of the things that happens with menopausal women is we put weight on around the middle of the body. We call it the menopause 10, at least 10 pounds after menopause. It just shows up.
I haven't heard that before. Menopause 10.
Yeah, menopause
Okay.
10. And it shows up in the belly. And so there's part of that is good. I always tell my women to bless your menopause, your little menopause there, because it makes estrogen. So fat makes estrogen. So we want a little bit of that, but we don't, when your pants start getting really tight, which mine started getting tight, and I was really getting frustrated because I hadn't worried about weight in a long time. So I read about this and I thought, okay, I worked out 5 days a week. I went to 2 yoga classes a week, and then 3 days a week I'd go to the gym. And I was doing long, slow, low intensity aerobics on a Stairmaster or a treadmill. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try this and see what happens. I'm only going to do it twice a week, and I'm going to do the 30 minutes is what I did. Warm up 5, 20 minutes, high intensity, cool down. Okay, so I did that for 3 months, and I lost 1 inch off my waist. I changed nothing else. I didn't change anything else. I lost about 3 or 4 pounds, not a lot of weight, but where I was so excited was the fact that my pants were fitting really comfortably again, So for me personally, it really worked, and it stayed off because I still do that twice a week. I don't do it any more than twice a week. You can do it more than twice a week, but personally for me, twice a week. So any thoughts on that, Jimmy, before I go into this research that I just read about?
Yeah, I would say, just to well, first of all, we need to say that a disclaimer, we are not telling you what to do, that we are not advising you to do HIIT training. You need to consult your physician first, and make sure that it's safe for you to do that. That is a disclaimer. We're not physicians, so we have to let you know. But
Yeah.
if you want our opinion about what we do and what we recommend our patients do, so there's no one exercise, just like there's no one diet that's going to fix everything. This is another type of exercise that is beneficial for most people. But we'll dive a little more deeper about how to do it, when to do it, because I actually after we go over your research, I'm reading some things about when to do it is also very important. It could actually be hurting you doing it the wrong time. But yeah, let's dive into your research first.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. Okay. So this was research done on 60 participants, and they did have a control group. And the participants, this was over a period of 6 months, and they didn't change anything else in their life. They didn't change diet, they didn't change anything else. Okay. So this was just adding twice a week a HIIT program. Okay. They did not, in the research paper, they did not state the duration of the HIIT program. So, but typically, and I think you probably seen this too, Jimmy, it's anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. That's typically what you'll see in a recommendation. So I'm going to assume it was somewhere in the 20 to 30-minute range on this research. So these were looking at patients that already had established cardiovascular disease. All right. So they had some plaque buildup in their arteries. So these were people who already had some obviously heading in the wrong direction coronary wise. So they didn't say exactly what they were at a higher risk, but they didn't say exactly what their blockage rate or anything like that was. So we don't really know that. But the results were pretty remarkable, because what they found was at the end of the 6 months, it not only halted the progression of the coronary artery disease, or atherosclerosis, it halted the buildup of atherosclerosis, and it even reversed it in some of the participants. So that is huge, because once you have some atherosclerotic plaque buildup, there's not a whole lot of things that have been shown to actually reduce it or reverse it. Obviously, stopping it is good where it's at, but something that can reduce it, and just twice a week doing the HIIT exercise. So to me, that was profound research, and in my opinion, one huge reason to do it. And if you're older, if you've had any, if you're on any kind of a statin because of atherosclerotic plaque, if you have a history of heart disease in your family, anything like that would be a real good reason to do this. So that was, to me, really, really good research. I want to share some of the other benefits though, right? Because let's say you're saying, well, I'm not older, I'm in my 40s or something, or maybe like you, Jimmy, you're not, in that risk range of 60, 70 as much, but you never know what's going on in there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I always say the absence of a symptom is not the presence of health,
yeah, yeah.
because the first sign of heart disease oftentimes is a heart attack. So
And it's the last symptom you feel too,
yeah,
sometimes.
it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah. So
So let me just give like an analogy for those of y'all who may not understand why HIIT training can help with the reversing of atherosclerosis, uh, basically plaque buildup, preventing plaque from building up within your arteries. Just imagine, for those of y'all who love gardening, right? If you have a hose and you constantly, let's say you're watering your plants, like here in Texas, we're on a water restriction. We can't water our plants. We can only do it once a week now. And so all of our grass is dead. And so, but if you get a hose, and so you don't turn on the water, right? If you really cut the hose open and you look inside of the hose right now, like here in Texas, it's got all this moldy, grimy stuff. Just imagine that is plaque, right? Now, so imagine if I turn on the water, in spurts. So I turn on the water in spurts. What does it do? It flushes all that mold and plaque or mold and grimy stuff within my garden hose, and it pushes it out, right? That's the same thing. You can imagine that's the same thing as HIIT training. HIIT training is you're just pushing blood through your arteries, and it's washing out all that plaque, and that is sticky, right? So it's pushing it out and helping. It could be eliminated through your bowels, eliminated eventually through your kidneys. So that's just like turning on the water hose and just pushing water or pushing blood through your arteries. So
yeah.
just think about it, right? If you have constant blood circulation in your arteries, are you going to, accumulate plaque? The chances are it decreases.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And the other benefit, so let me read you some of the other benefits. One of them I just was thinking of when you were talking about elimination channels was lymphatic. Your lymph system doesn't have a pump. So when you're doing this, talk about moving lymph. I mean, this is really moving lymph. So that's really good, because one of your elimination systems in the body for getting rid of junk and garbage. And we always talk about it being the garbage, the garbage disposal. So belly fat, obviously that belly fat, this has been a lot of research done on belly fat and HIIT training. And so my story is just an indication of what it can do specifically for that area of the body, which is really cool. Then there's also another hormone that's stimulated when you're doing HIIT training. That's a human growth hormone, HGH. And, there's a lot of movie stars that take injections of HGH for staying younger longer, right?
Yeah.
But what if you can make your own HGH? So, HIIT training increases your HGH for up to 24 hours after a HIIT training or a HIIT exercise program. For 24 hours, you're going to be pumping more HGH out, which is awesome. So one of the benefits to HGH on the heart disease side is it helps elevate HDL, your good cholesterol, and it helps lower LDL. So again, this may be part of that whole picture of the cardiovascular disease picture of higher HDL grabs a hold of and moves out of the body into the liver and gets it out of the body, plaque, right? And high LDL moves LDL out of the body that is not needed anymore, or is not needed in any parts of the body. So that is a huge benefit to HIIT training in cardiovascular disease and anti-aging, and also in burning calories, because you can burn in a 24-hour period after HIIT, you're burning more calories than you did before you did it. So like this morning was my HIIT morning. So I'm going to burn more calories. And I actually do notice that I'm a little more hungry on the days that I do this. Like I had a big protein shake this morning and stuff, but I'll probably be hungry a little earlier, and I'll be a little more hungry at lunch. So what I do is I make sure I do more protein during that meal, because if I've torn down some muscle tissue while I'm doing that, actually during my HIIT training, I do squats and stuff too. I work my lower body because I do mine outside with my tennis shoes on out in the country. But because I'm working big muscle groups like my quadriceps, I'm burning more calories. So I am definitely eating more, but when I eat more, it's going to be a little bit more protein, because I want to rebuild that muscle tissue that I might have torn down during my exercise. So lots of benefits here on HIIT training. So what was I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about timing. When should we do this?
Yeah, so I was watching some YouTube and recently reading, and HIIT training is great, but what I've noticed, especially in our clinics, in my clinic, is that a lot of people went through that Orange Theory phase.
Yeah,
You familiar with Orange Theory? So it's another HIIT training gym. There's many
yeah,
of them. I think there's like Fits 45 or something like that. Or like P90X for
yeah,
the home
yeah,
users. And so what we noticed were the people that were, and these were young 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and they were getting up early, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Orange Theory or do some HIIT training. They would fast the morning before. They would do a shake, right?
yeah,
And what we were noticing is that, well, at least before they came to our clinic, this is what they were complaining of. They're saying, hey, I'm going to Orange Theory 6 days a week. I am
yeah,
fasting on those days, and I'm not eating, and I don't know why I am not losing weight. And some of them, in fact, were gaining weight. And so, I mean, there's many reasons why, right? First, the first thing is getting up at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock to do that HIIT training, especially when you went to sleep at, let's say, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. So
mhm,
these people, working professionals, just like you were saying, they don't have time, right? We always have time, first of all. Well, that's a whole nother topic. But they were saying that they don't have time, so they wake up 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. They only sleep about 6, maybe 5, 6 hours. They sacrifice their sleep
yeah,
hoping to get to the gym to do the HIIT training to lose weight. So number one, you should never sacrifice your sleep if you want to lose weight. Sleep is actually more important than actually your exercise. And so they were, number one, sacrificing their sleep. So of course they're sending their adrenal glands into hyperdrive, which is just flooding their body of sugar. And so when you do the HIIT training, your body uses the sugar that's in your bloodstream first, right? And then
mhm,
once you use that up, then it's going to start, signaling your liver, because your liver also helps store sugar. And it tells your liver, hey, I need some of that storage, so it starts to release some of that storage. But eventually you'll use up that as well. And so now your body, you're doing that HIIT training. HIIT training it's intense. So you need more energy. So where does your body get the energy? It's got to get it from somewhere. And so this is where I need to do the research. So don't quote me on this. The theory is that after the body uses the sugar and the stored sugar that we have, then there's only two other sources of energy. One is protein and one is fat. And fat is the one that is the last that the body uses. So after the body uses up your sugar, your floating sugar in your bloodstream, then it's going to go for protein. Where does it get protein? It starts breaking down your muscles. And
mhm,
so that's where it gets its protein. So after the body, so let me just summarize. After the body, you're doing all this HIIT training and you starved yourself, you fasted. It's going to use all your sugar up really quick. Then it's going to start targeting your muscles. And so this is also what we noticed. Those patients, they weren't getting stronger. Their strength were actually the same, or actually they were getting weaker. And they were actually doing HIIT training every 6 days a week. And that's another problem also. But so if you want to burn fat, right, it's not just HIIT training. There's more to burning fat, because when you just do HIIT training, you're really just getting the carbs. I mean, you're breaking that, utilizing the carbs or sugar, and then you're going to muscle. You're not even really giving enough time to start burning down your fat. And so it is important that before you do these HIIT trainings, before you go exercise, you want to input some protein before you go, because you're going to break down muscle. So that was just interesting. You know, some of the research that I want to do is still learning. Okay, how, you know, some people say 30 minutes before you exercise, eat some protein. But I don't, 30 minutes before exercise, you're not going to be able to utilize that protein for during your exercise. That protein will be used hours after you've exercised. So really, I'm thinking it's the day before, the night before, you need to get protein, so that it will be there for you to use during your HIIT training. But this is all theoretical, right? But it's interesting. It's interesting. That's the new thing that I'm learning and researching.
Well, I have to agree that I don't think we should do this every day. I really don't. Because the benefits last 24 hours. So I don't think it's a good idea to go to Orange Theory every day or whatever. And those things are more than 20 minutes long. I mean, that is like an hour.
Some of them are an hour. Yeah.
Oh, there's crazy long. You know, when you were talking about eating before you exercise, it made me think way back in the 80s, I was a fitness instructor, dance aerobics, you know, back in the day. Me and a partner had a business for 10 years. And when we first started, it was the really early stages of dance aerobics, and like jazzercise hadn't even kind of come on the scene yet, or any of that kind of stuff. But what we would do is go like crazy people. You know, like we'd warm up and then we'd go like crazy people with the high kicks, you know, remember, you know, jumping all over the place. Oh my gosh. And we would go for like 30 minutes, just nonstop, I mean, pouring sweat, you know, off of us. And we did this for years like this, thinking this was healthy and this was good, right? And then the interesting thing was, we lived in Northern California at the time, and UC Davis had a what we call a dunk tank. You could go up there and you could get dunked, and they could do your body fat to lean. Yeah. So as instructors, we're like, oh, we're going to go up and get dunked, you know, and we're going to be so lean, you know, because we were lean looking. I mean, we had no fat on our body, right? So we go up and we get dunked, and we're thinking we're going to be like, you know, 12% body fat or whether. And we came back at like 20% or 20, and we're all like shocked. So here we are talking to these exercise physiology guys, and they're like, tell me what you guys are doing. And so we told them, and they said, do you eat before you exercise? No. You know, and our classes were like at 9 in the morning, right? So they said, here's what we want you guys to do, because we want to just use you as like a group of people, right? Because we each had really big classes. That was back in the day when there were, I mean, I'd have 30 or 40 people in a class in the morning, and at night you'd have 60 people in a class. I mean, you had big groups of people, right?
Yeah.
So we said to all the people in the class, we said, hey, if we're going to do this for like 3 months, and if you guys want to do this with us, you can, you know, but you don't have to, but we're going to eat before we exercise. So they wanted us to eat some protein and a little bit of carb about an hour before exercise. So we started doing that. And then they said, we want you to slow down. We want you to do your warm up, do a couple, like, you know, we had back in the day, we had records, if you can believe it, 45 records. You know, we want you to do like 3 routines that are high intensity. And which was probably a record, you know, a song about 3 minutes long, you know, so maybe 10 minutes or something. And then we want you to start to slow down, like start bringing them down. And then the last like 20 minutes of class is just your floor work and your strength training. And then we want you to come back and get tested again. And we want your class to give you feedback, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And 3 months later, we went back up there, and we literally had gained about 7 or 8 pounds of muscle and lost about 7 or 8 pounds of fat. We had done a complete swap on the
Wow.
fat to body ratio. And we were
Yeah.
getting feedback from all of our students that, oh my gosh, I'm finally losing weight. I'm losing weight, and it really was an eye opener for us because at the time there was none of this research that we're reading about
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
This is back in the 80s, but it was very interesting that these guys up at UC Davis, they got it. They knew, you need to feed the body. And then they said, when you get done working out, this is crazy. We used to do crazy stuff. We would teach a class, and then we'd leave the class and we'd go to the gym and do weights and not eat.
Oh,
Not eat at all. And so they were like, stop, just stop, feed yourself, so we started eating a lot more protein with a little bit of carbs, and we weren't doing grain carbs. We were doing like a banana or something like that. Made a huge difference. So to me, that was almost like a clinical trial of a bunch of people.
yeah.
And so, because I was teaching, we were, as instructors, we would teach 4 or 5 times a week, easy, um, and so we were working out a lot, but to be body fat percentage where we were when we got weighed, we were all shocked. So I
Yeah.
think they call it skinny fat. You can be skinny and
Yes.
fat.
Yeah.
So I agree with you as far as I think people overdo this, like Orange Theory or whatever. I don't know that you need to go to a gym, first of all. I
Yeah.
don't go to the gym. I put my tennis shoes on and I go out the front door. And for people who maybe are older like me, like I've got one knee that is kind of talks to me after all those years of teaching aerobics. So I can't do I can do some squats, but some people can't do that, right? They can't do the
Yeah.
things with the knees, right? So there are so many YouTube videos out there on high intensity interval training that teach you how you can low intensity, you can still get your heart rate up. You can do it in your living room,
Hmm.
but I encourage people to, just put your tennis shoes on and go out the door. For a lot of people that are not in very good shape, just power walking, literally moving, like power walking,
Yeah.
can get their heart rate up enough. So again, your heart's going to adjust and it's going to adapt and it's going to get stronger. So it may require you to do a little more after you get in condition. But if you just want to start with this by putting your tennis shoes on and going out the door, or maybe taking the clothes off that stationary bicycle or that treadmill you've got somewhere in your house, those are great things. And they're not that, the bikes are non-impact, right? No impact on the body. So I think there's so many benefits, but you don't want to do it 5 days a week. You don't need
Yeah.
to do it 5 days a week. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my thought on and my story on how it worked for us for a whole group of people. Yeah.
So we're gonna do a poll.
Okay.
So everybody that's watching, and then people that are watching this video, this podcast later. So we're gonna do a poll. How many of y'all? I want y'all to comment. Okay, you can comment now or you can comment later. How many of you would like to see Chris do an exercise video program?
There you go.
So it can be, for it can be, people that are older, 70s and above, or people that have, joint problems. You could be 20s and you have joint problems and you can't move around. Those
Yeah.
exercise programs will just be good will be good for you as well. So how many of y'all want to see Chris do an exercise program? Okay. So if you want to see that, you got to vote yes. Otherwise, she's not gonna do it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Put me on the spot here.
But I thought it was interesting what you just said in your experience back then.
Yeah.
It's kind of a theory of everything. Sometimes in order to gain, it's like in order to move forward, you got to take a step back.
Yeah.
And so what I heard, that's what I heard from what you were with the people at UC Davis was like, instead of going gung ho, 5 days a week, they told you to basically take a step back, slow it down, right?
Yeah.
Slow it down. And actually the results were contrary to what most of us think. We think if we hit it hard every single day, 5 days a week, we're going to gain so much muscle, we're going to lose so much fat. But no, the reality was you have to take a step back. You got to slow it down. Slow it down. and you will actually get the result that you want. And
Yeah.
when you're just hitting it hard, you actually get the opposite, which is what we saw in our clinic. People didn't lose weight, people gained weight, and they got
Yeah.
weaker, even though they were lifting more, right? And so that was just that, yeah, that was a pretty good insight from
It was
your
a real
experience.
eye opener, and eating more. I mean, they were like, you
Yeah,
guys need to eat. You need to eat protein and a little bit of carb. And it was just, in our mindset back then, right? We were in our 30s, like the less you eat, the better, and like you don't,
yeah,
we can go without eating breakfast and work out at our gym. Like our fitness class would go from 9 to 10, and then we'd leave there and go to the gym and work out for another hour. And I can remember coming home and I was so low on blood sugar. So like, it was literally like crackers in my mouth. It was carbs. I wanted sugar right
yeah,
away.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It
That
was,
that's a great point, because
yeah.
you, like I said, when you do HIIT, you use up all your sugar. And
Yeah.
so your body's craving energy, energy, energy. And the fastest way to get energy is sugar. So we
Right.
start drinking stuff like Gatorade, sugary drinks afterwards, after you work out, and you just made everything worse. You just
Yeah.
depleted everything you just did. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you're going to crave it. And, cravings are tough to, I mean, your body's telling you we need something now. And it's
Yeah,
pretty hard to stop that hand going into a box of
exactly.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
so it'd be fun to hear anybody's comments too on, if you try this, and maybe we'll put another, maybe a survey up or something. Did you try it, and what were your results? Because give it some time, okay? Because the cardiovascular study was 6 months.
Hmm.
It wasn't like, we're going to go out for a week
Yeah,
and then, what
yeah,
we did it with UC Davis was 3 months. So,
yeah.
give us some time, right? Give us some time.
I say 3 months is good. Quarters are
Yeah.
always good. It gives you
Yeah.
an idea of if you're on track or not. All
Right.
right. Well, that was quick, and we are at time. So,
Yeah.
uh, hey, if you like what we talk about, get your friends to tune in onto our podcast. You can find previous podcast that we've done on our YouTube channel at Divine Farmer Health, and we will be. Stay tuned. If you don't follow us at Divine Farmer Health on Facebook, Instagram, it's at Divine Farmer Health. Then you need to, because we're going to be launching a new program tomorrow, because today's Thursday. We're going to be launching a new program tomorrow, and it's going to help you if you get the flu a lot, if you get sick during the winter season, or you get allergies. Like here in Texas, cedar starts in the winter. And so if you don't want to go suffer through the winter season again, like you do every single year, or maybe you don't want to get the flu shot, then you're going to want to get on this program. Okay. So look out for it. It's going to come out tomorrow. All
Yeah.
right,
It's
guys.
gonna be awesome. All
Thank
right.
you. And we'll see you
Bye.
next week. We got a special guest.
Yay. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.